Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Sahra, and this is Access Point, my conversation series exploring technology, justice, and the stories that shape us. I sit down with thinkers, builders, and witnesses across the globe to ask how tech can serve dignity, equity, and care. And today I am very, very grateful to be joined by Dr. Kay Coghill. Dr. Kay Coghill is a Black, non binary, disabled femme who is an award winning educator and organizer, recognized for their contributions to gender based violence studies and reproductive justice. They are the eldest daughter of 10 and take that responsibility very seriously. They are adjunct instructor at various universities, focusing on hip hop feminism, misogynoir in digital spaces, Black girlhood studies, gender studies, and digital resistance. Outside of teaching, they provide abortion doula care in their city. Kay is also the community safety and support steward for Black Sky Algorithms, providing content moderation, research, and trust and safety disability contributions to the Black Sky feed on the social media app Blue Sky. They also act as the disability advisor for Penn State University's World Campus, ensuring that faculty and students have the resources, training, and guidance they need to work harmoniously through the accommodation processes and needs for all disabled students on campus. Lastly, Kay serves as a board member for Richmond Reproductive Freedom Project, Justice for Black Girls, and the Plunk Foundation. Thank you, Dr. Kay, for joining me.
Thanks for
How are
having
you
me.
today?
I'm hanging in there, you
You're
know.
hanging in there, during these times. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I'm super grateful to speak with you. One of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you, which I've mentioned to you before, is that your research occupies so many intersections that I feel not only need to be amplified, but also need to be examined more closely because we live with these frameworks every single day. Um, so I in in your work, especially within digital misogynoir, where I'd love to start. Um, I guess I can just start by starting having you start with misogynoir and how how you came into exploring misogynoir from a digital aspect. And also, we can just define misogynoir to start, which is at the foundation of your work, as you say.
Yeah, so misogynoir is actually a term that was coined in 2008 by a Black feminist, Dr. Moya Bailey, and it is a term that is labeling anti-Black racism and sexism that is directly targeted at Black women, non-binary folks, and gender expansive people. And what's interesting is that I always talk about how like misogynoir as a term is relatively new, but the actual harm that Black women, non-binary folks, gender expansive folks have experienced is centuries long, right? So, um, Dr. Moya Bailey attributing this term to this experience has been really, I would say, like foundational, not only to my work, but probably I'm sure other scholars will say their work as well, because we now have a word to describe what we've been talking about and basically like screaming into the void for centuries now.
Yeah.
So I have always been very involved in just the internet. I remember using dial up, having like AOL, Instant Messenger and MySpace and like Bebo and Black Planet. Like I remember like being in all these different like online communities. But one thing I noticed is when I started using Twitter back in 2008, and this is when you could really only like text to tweet. There wasn't an app per se, so people were using it. Like I had a flip phone.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a Metro PCS um, flip phone, and
Yep.
I just remember when I got into college, in undergrad, Twitter was like popping. Like everyone was using Twitter. We would, use different hashtags to talk about different shows. It's particularly like on my campus, and then you connected with other people who may live in the same state or even like in other states.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I graduated, I became more and more like active on Twitter, expressing my opinion. My follower count got larger. And around 2014, 2015, I experienced my first, I would say like my first extreme instance of digital misogynoir, from someone who had a larger platform than myself, um, based on something that I had said on a podcast that they did not like about them. And they decided to not only also go on that podcast, and spend the entire, however long the episode was, just berating me, calling me everything with a child of God, telling me to, kill myself, all types of stuff. They then took it to Twitter, and I had made my page private, because I knew this was coming. Like I had been online so long and seen so many Black women be harassed that I was like, yeah, this is coming. So I made my page private, and someone had gave them like my selfies and stuff, like photos that I had on my page, and they were posting it and calling me all types of names, and then their followers were trying to follow me, I guess, to harass me. But like I've been on the internet for a very long time. Like I'm not like new to this. So
Yeah.
I experienced a lot of like mental anguish during that time. And unfortunately, a lot of my friends and people that were close to me did not understand the gravity of what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And because of that, it made me think about like, how are other Black women and people like me dealing with this? And also, why isn't Twitter like taking, like, why are people allowed to be misogynistic, homophobic, fatphobic, and all these things online without any consequences? So during my master's program, I started to do research on that. I looked at Leslie Jones' experience during the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot rollout.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I did a focus group with women in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area to kind of talk about their experiences on Twitter. And from there, for the past decade, I have literally made it my life's mission. And it's like the research has changed and shifted over time. Like at first, I was coming after Twitter. I was like, I'm going to work for Twitter. I'm going to change everything. And then when I got into my doctoral program years later, because I went back into the workforce after I finished my master's, I was like, yeah, so this is not going to work. And I had some colleagues kind of like pour into me and say like, the work that you're doing is important, but you also need to think about your own mental health and how it's going to impact you
Mm-hmm.
long term. So
Mm-hmm.
I shifted my focus to really just looking at how Black women and non-binary femmes in particular create their own harm reduction online. So
Mm.
I was interviewing folks. I looked at Megan Thee Stallion's experience when she was shot as a case study, and that
Oh.
really has led me to just really doing a lot of work around protecting Black women and girls on the internet, because of my experience, because of the things that I witnessed other people experience, celebrities and not celebrities. And it's really been kind of like my life's mission to try to make these digital spaces as safe as possible for Black women, in particular, because we experience this form of like online harassment or technology facilitated violence, as they call it, gender based violence, um, more than any other group. And people don't use the term digital misogynoir that often.
Yes, yes,
describe what is happening.
yes.
There are scholars that are using it, but it's not like used as much as like online harassment or cyberbullying or um in like certain gender-based violence spaces like technology facilitated violence against women and girls. But I want to make digital misogynoir a term that's just as important as those because it's a very unique type of
It
harm.
is very unique. It is a very unique type of harm. You're absolutely right. And I'm so glad that you named that because I I I want to say digital oppression because you said I know that you use digital oppression as well. I want to say digital oppression might be getting used.
I don't use the term digital oppression.
Okay. Have you heard of the term digital oppression?
No.
No. Okay. Um, do you do you my other question on the digital is on the digital versus physical spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's interesting, right? Because you frame this from the point of view of I've been online. I've navigated this since I was young. And yet you encounter this space where you feel completely just like it's lawless,
Yeah.
right? Like it's lawless. Like you don't feel accounted for, you don't feel
Mm-hmm.
seen, none of that. So other than the actual the bullying and the very real the real consequences or the real effects of it, can you tell me what are the ways that it manifests? What are the ways that digital manifests in these digital spaces, like even in subtle ways that we may not, that the average person may not be able to catch, but if you see the subtlety, it's only a matter of time before it comes out, the harshness comes out, right? Yeah.
So just so I'm clear, you're asking me like what are some of the subtle signs of like digital misogynoir and online?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I would say so. I wrote a blog post when I was in my doctoral program. And I talked about some of the things that I had observed
Yeah.
as examples of digital misogynoir. And one of the things that I had observed was that people don't really talk about is pranks and embarrassing your partner online,
Okay.
right? So YouTube has made it very popular for people, to prank their partners, but a lot of the pranks that I have seen or things that people claim are just jokes um, typically are harmful to Black women,
Mm,
or they put women in a position to be embarrassed or harmed by other people.
mm,
And for me, that is a red flag for potential opportunities for more digital misogynoir. And I just literally talked about this on Black Sky the other day. Someone was talking about like pranks, and I said, I always start things like I may be strict because I'm very like serious about misogynoir. So I'm always like I may be strict, but like I do talk about in my research a lot about how like a lot of these pranks are set up to embarrass Black women.
mm,
Like
mm,
I see some pranks that are like, oh, I guess they're fun, but like a lot of them are mean spirited. And it to me is a subtle way of perpetuating digital
mm,
misogynoir
mhm,
in the guise of it just being jokes.
mm,
Another way that I have noticed frequently, really over like it's nothing new, but I've really been seeing it frequently, particularly on Blue Sky and Black Sky over the past, I want to say, month, is this idea of men making women feel obligated to accept their advances or to engage with them online, right?
mm,
So I'll give an example, and this is a vague example. So a Black woman could post like something maybe sexually suggestive, right?
mm,
That is not directly towards anyone. It could just be a statement of something like, oh, I love when X, Y, and Z, or post a photo of themselves.
right.
some men will take that as an opportunity to either message them privately,
Mm-hmm.
and basically harass them and say like, "Oh, I find you so attractive," and blah blah blah. And then if you don't respond, they're like, "I thought we were mutuals. Are we not friends?" Or they will respond to your post or your question. And mind you, you may not follow this person. You might not even know this person.
Yeah.
And when you go to either tell them to stop or block them, they then go to their page and perpetuate themselves as the nice guy. Isn't it mean for people to block you for no reason when you're just trying to build community and engage? And it's like, that's not your motive,
Yeah.
right? So that is another like subtle sign, is like people feeling obligated to the engagement from Black women in digital spaces
Yeah.
and not taking no
Yeah.
or leave
Yeah.
me alone or me not responding as a hard boundary. So
Ab-
just a lack of boundaries. And then the last thing is um this idea of trying to like flip the misogynoir and harm that Black women face as them being misandrist, right? And if a Black woman is like, I don't like when men do this, like, ugh, men get on my nerves, they will use this as a way to harass, or as a almost like a in for them to say something like, see, and this is why you all complain about, misogynoir, or why you complain about being treated poorly, is because you say things like you don't like men,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and I see those as subtle examples, because a lot of times what I've noticed, especially like as a moderator, is that people think there are levels to misogynoir. There are not. If it's misogynoir, it's misogynoir. There's no such thing as like sexual abuse light, right? Like, oh, it's just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of sexual abuse, right? It's just you're just stealing a little bit. You're just like diet scamming. Like, no, you are perpetuating anti-blackness, or you are perpetuating
Yeah.
misogynoir. There's no
Yeah.
levels to it. Some of
Yeah.
it may be more damaging,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of it may be more boastful and loud, but like a microaggression is still a form of hatred. It's still a
Mm-hmm.
form of an ism or a phobia or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still harmful. So I think that a lot of the subtle instances, a lot of people overlook as like jokes, or it's not that serious, or just block the person. But I don't see it like that. From the perspective of a Black person that's using the internet, but also as someone who studies violence online, and also someone who works behind the scenes dealing with reports of misogynoir and anti-Blackness and violence and things like that. And I see what people are reporting, and I'm like, yeah, this is an example of that, even if the person doesn't outright say, I hate Black women. Like, that's not how
Absolutely.
it works. It can be
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. It's as you were listing the subtleties, I I couldn't help but think that each one that you listed can be broken down and manifested to so many like interactions, right?
Yeah.
From like the something akin to digital catcalling, right? Like the,
Mhm.
oh, F you then, like
Yeah.
like you don't want to like the subtleties and the intent versus impact, like what is your intention here? Like why is this group of people always the afterthought, the butt of the joke, the like why and
Yeah.
why is that okay? And then on the last one, when you even try to even say
Mhm.
anything at all about gender as it relates to men or
Yeah.
masculinity, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have full license to come at you because you hate.
Yep.
It's wow, it's so fascinating. How would you say, and we'll get into language and language next, but how would you say these platforms are, and the algorithms are amplifying or enabling some of this, and from your whole, the history, your experience of it, from obviously these days back to the glory days of Twitter.
Yeah. So now that I've been moderating for almost a year now, and we have human moderators
Yeah.
actually looking at reports, I can see exactly how stuff falls through the crack. A
Mm.
lot of these large tech platforms don't necessarily have, it's almost like a sweatshop,
Yep.
right? Of folks moderating these things, right?
Hmm.
I've heard
In the
about,
global south. Yep.
yeah, I've heard about particularly like in the Philippines, there's a documentary, I believe it, oh gosh, I forgot what it was called, but there's a documentary, it's an older documentary where it talks about um people who are moderators
Hmm.
who live in the Philippines and like how much they have to produce all
Mm.
the time. I have people that I know that have worked for other large companies who have told me before like how much they have to moderate. Um, I have talked to other folks who work in other parts of the world. Like I know a young lady who works particularly with like folks in the Middle East, and like the volumes of moderation that she has to do to me is astronomical, which means that they are being held to a certain quota, and there is a certain level of like a certain there's a certain gap of like being able to really like comb through reports. So like for me, it sometimes takes me a while to go through a lot of reports because I'm like, if someone reports somebody and I don't necessarily know if that particular post is something that needs to be labeled, but this person's particular post has been reported multiple times, I will go to that person's page and I will comb through their page to see what else they've said, to see like, okay, this person has a history of doing this. They are acting in bad faith, right?
Right.
And I know that it's almost impossible. I'm Big tech makes it seem like it's almost impossible for large tech companies to do that, and that's really because like moderation can be very draining for folks. It can be extremely like traumatizing. For me per se, I don't really find it extremely like draining or traumatizing. It's annoying because I'm just like, here we go again. But that's also because I've literally been looking at this stuff for 10 years.
And you're
So
studying, like
yeah, I'm
you're a
studying it, right?
scholarship too.
Yeah,
So
so like
yeah,
I'm studying in
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
for
yeah,
me, I see it from a different perspective.
yeah.
But I do think that the issue here is that big tech, I don't think they had like forethought maybe of needing this level of moderation.
Hmm.
And I also think that rage bait and harm and online violence is like sensational. It
Hmm.
brings more people. It
Hmm.
could lead to maybe some type of financial gain.
Hmm.
So it may be easier to overlook things. And
More
also, I'm a firm believer, and I stand on this in every room, is that a lot of these companies that have these moderation services, they are not using people who are culturally tapped in, right? Understand cultural nuance to create whatever systems they're using to weed out these things, right? Whether they're using, you know, a learning language model, AI, whatever, like they don't have people who are from these different cultural
hmm.
backgrounds
Hmm.
creating these things. So
Yeah.
like we can't expect for like a 21-year-old cishet white male from the suburbs, right?
Hmm.
Who comes from a privileged background to really understand why calling a black woman a roach is seen as misogynoir and offensive
Mm.
or anti. We can't expect like
No,
we
no.
like where would they have ever heard that before?
Right, right.
So I think that's like a big issue as well. It's just like the lack of like cultural competency amongst the people that are creating these moderation services. And then also the fact that like moderating is difficult. So it can be hard to find people who can do it long term, or even want to do it because you are engaging with a lot of like harmful material.
Why do you think moderation, perhaps maybe not experience because you're coming at this from multiple angles, but why do you think moderation is low wage and sweatshop and prone to like exploitation, like period, like the act of moderating for these big companies?
Yeah. I think because people don't really understand the value in safety,
Mm,
um, offline and online. I
yeah,
think that people who are put in positions to like keep folks safe,
yeah,
are not considered valuable in the workforce. I also think that they think that it is like mindless work. Like, oh, you're just going through reports and you're marking them as this and this and this. I don't think they really realize that, like, if there are human moderators doing this work, like, they're actually having to, like, research. Like, we don't know everything we're seeing. Like,
yeah,
there may
yeah,
be certain terms, phrases, like, some of these images, we may not know what they're about. Like, I don't think they really see the value in the amount of work that goes into moderation.
yeah,
I tell people all the time that like I love like the work that I do, but I'm also very aware that there are people who are also doing moderation for other companies, whether it is through contracting, whether it is through like they work for a large company that like has clients that they do it for where they don't have the same support that I have
yeah.
with the other moderators, with our founder, with our team. Um, and a lot of them don't really have the people who are paying them have never moderated,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So, like, one thing about Black Sky that I can say is that, like, when Rudy Fraser, who is the CEO and founder, when they first started their moderation service for the Black Sky feed that they created, I believe it was just like him and one other person.
yeah,
So like he's actually going in and
yeah,
like doing moderation. So he knows how much time it takes. He knows what people are seeing, right? And even when it comes down to looking at things that we may escalate, he actually physically goes in there, looks at what escalates, and then, goes through the steps of what comes next. So
mm,
I don't think a lot of people have like those checks and balances. So like their supervisors or whoever's in charge don't really see value in paying them a living wage. And it's weird to me because like technically we're a part of the tech field. So you would
yeah,
think that we would be
yeah,
making more money.
yeah,
But because we're not like technically building, right? Or developing specific things, I guess, it's not really seen as valuable. And I just think that especially when it comes to like this like sweatshops labor that I've noticed, a lot when I was teaching a class last semester on hashtag activism, and I talked to my students a lot about like moderation, and like we talked about that documentary. And after watching that documentary, I honestly was shocked. I did not know, because I was not a content moderator
mm,
before, right?
yeah,
I was not a practitioner. I was a scholar.
yeah,
So I had ideas of how we could make the internet better, but I had never actually been boots on the ground behind the scenes looking at reports, right? I was seeing the front facing stuff, the stuff that people were posting, not the stuff that people were reporting.
right,
Um, so when I saw that documentary and I saw them showing people like in dark rooms in like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, like going through moderation like this, like it made me very uncomfortable because I was
mm,
like, these people have no work-life balance. They're
yeah,
looking at horrible things all day long, and they're
hmm,
not getting paid a lot of money.
no, 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 no. I saw something recently on Kenya, and it was like, I think it was content moderators. I think they were getting paid like $1 something an hour or something, and watching 9 hours I mean, it's fascinating because, like, as OpenAI and other companies, like, they, as they try to get bigger and are going to need more and more data centers, like that's this too, like that this is going, and it's just, to me, it's just, it's because a lot of my work is all very much systemic. So to me, it's just like, it's so repetitive of the same systemic colonizations of like, okay, we moved all industry, industrial to Southeast Asia or to China. And it's like, okay, now we're going to do this with big tech. And who gets to suffer the most again? Oh, the global South. So it's, no, you're right. And I think honestly, Dr. K, your research is like very, very important to this work as well, you know, like, because I'm not sure how many folks are doing the research and content moderating the way that you are doing it, right? Because the way that we know about content moderating is the harmful way, the sweatshop way. Like that's the only way that we know of it, right? Because it hasn't even been respected enough to be studied like in such a scholarship way, right? So that's why I think that your work is really integral. So I'm going to ask you one more question and then we'll get into Black Sky. And that is, what does harm reduction look like for Black women and non-binary femmes online?
Yeah, so some of the examples that I have from my dissertation interviews that I did is not engaging with like rage bait, right? Like being aware of what rage bait is. And I've been like thinking around like I do a lot of like content and stuff, and I've been thinking around like how I want to teach people about rage baiting because
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot on like Blue Sky, Black Sky, and also on TikTok that like people are like easily brought into rage baiting, and like what the signs look like. So a lot of the participants that I interviewed were like no rage bait engagement. And those participants were people who had been on the internet for a long time, right? And had huge followings on Twitter and other social media websites. So they understood that. Another one was
How would you define rate?
yes. So I would define rage bait as people who post things that they know will be polarizing and or contrarian to what is the normal conversation, right? So when we think about our current political climate in the United States, rage baiting would be agreeing with the the deporting and agreeing with ICE or agreeing with the National Guard being deployed in DC, right? Saying like, oh, you know, we said we wanted a better DC and this is like that's rage baiting
Yeah,
because you know
yeah.
that people are upset about this and you're posting this to get a rise out of people, right? And like even news outlets, right, are susceptible to rage bait, doing rage bait by their headline titles, right? They
Now, is that on
know,
purpose when they do it?
yes, they journalists are very like they're not dumb people at all. Like journalists
Not
are very
exactly.
aware of
Okay.
like what will get people to click
So it's
or
really it's like family to clickbait, but just the rage part of it, the rage side of click.
yeah, very family to clickbait because like on social media, if you make a post and there's no links, like it's not going to lead to anything. So
Mm.
it kind of like stays almost like contained to that platform unless somebody like screenshots it and posts it somewhere else or like regurgitates that information somewhere else. For an article, when we think of clickbait, like the goal is for you to click the article to get views on that article, and likely they are hoping that you will not really read the article. Maybe you'll skim it and then you'll share it with someone else, and then you're able to spread misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that's my theory behind it. I'm not a journalist,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I know a little bit about media,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I also am very observant of how people post and why people post certain things. And like earlier, you talked about intention over impact. Like like people who want to be the devil's advocate, right? Like those are people that you kind of have to like keep an eye on because they very well may post some rage baity stuff because they know that it will get them engagement. And I was talking to I don't know if I was talking to someone or if I was having a conversation online, but they had brought up a good point that like people do a lot of this because of like they are trying to make money. Like they are trying to build their following, get SEO. So if I constantly am posting things that are causing like an uproar, chaos, right? If I'm putting chaos on the timeline, then
Chaos pays.
um yes, yes. So that those are some examples. Selective sharing, which I love, is like not posting things in real time. Like I know we love to post us going on vacation, traveling, doing speaking engagements, but waiting until you get home to post that you went somewhere. So
Yeah.
people don't know where you are in real time. And sometimes I don't even post that. Like you don't always have to post where you're at or where you're going. Another thing is that they would change their profile pictures to cartoons or memes. So that way people would not know who they were or what they looked like. So if something went viral, and they got some, bad actors in their mentions, they wouldn't be able to degrade them because they wouldn't be able to find anything on them, right? So that
Yeah.
means that they're not posting photos of themselves on the feed, so you can't go to their media and see photos of them, because that's the first place people go to when they want to talk about you. They go to your media, see what you look like, and then repost a photo of yourself and start to try to tear down your image, right? But if you
Yeah.
don't have any photos of yourself and your profile picture is Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls, and your profile has no indications of who you are, it doesn't have your name, where you
Mm-hmm.
work, or anything like that, it's very hard for people to find reasons other than your posts, like what you talk about, to perpetuate digital misogynoir, because sometimes they don't even know if you're Black or not. So I had
Right.
a lot of participants say that they do that. And then this is something that I do and other participants do, is like block on contact is what I call it.
Mm.
So block on contact for me is like an umbrella. So one, whenever I make a new social media site, I look up the usernames of people on other social media sites that I can remember,
Okay.
and I block them immediately. Like as soon as I make before I have a profile picture, anything, I look for them and I block them. If I see someone arguing with someone else and the person that they are arguing with is being misogynistic, homophobic, fatphobic, or maybe I just don't like what they're saying because it's offensive, I block them. If someone responds to my post in a way that I'm just like, they're trying to um, pull me into a tense conversation, I block them. If
Mm-hmm.
someone follows me and I go to their page and I can tell that they are either a bot, a troll, someone who is clearly that me and them would never interact in any space,
Yeah.
and I know that they likely may act in bad faith, I block them. So like I don't give people the opportunity to possibly disrespect me or
Yeah.
harm me. And a lot of other people do the same. And I tell a lot of women this, especially Black women this online, that like if you post something and someone responds to you and it makes you uncomfortable, block them.
Yeah.
Don't try to explain to them why it made you uncomfortable, because you don't know where that conversation is going to go. You don't know
Right.
if they're going to say, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that," or if they're going to be like, "Well, F you then, you blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. This is why you're this," and continue to harass you. Block them on contact.
I think intuition is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Intuition is so important. Like
Yeah.
it like if it just gives you, if it gives you the wrong, like just the wrong energy, the wrong, like if you feel that it's inappropriate, just on, yeah. Because you're right. Once you engage, like you're in it, and you kind of have to, you, I mean, hopefully you stop yourself before you get deeper into it, but that's, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely right. I be preemptive with your piece, right? You have to,
Mm-hmm.
you have to guard it. Okay, let's
Yeah.
talk about that guy. So what does safer, self-governable online spaces mean in practice?
Yeah. So, when I think about like the definition of like safe and like self-governable internet spaces, I look at it from the perspective of like a user of the internet.
Mm.
So I look at it from that perspective. I look at it as someone who has studied how Black people, particularly Black women, use the internet. And from there, I would say I define it as being able to engage with folks online, to build communities that determine, right, what are the acceptable ways of engagement, like rules of engagement, right? So like it's not like, oh, this person says we have to do it this way, so everyone has to do it this way. So like particularly at Black Sky, what I'm learning through like my role and through Rudy and the entire team is that like having the autonomy over your experience online all the way to how like we moderate is very empowering, and it also like dissolves this like hierarchy, right? So like a lot of times people think that like the power and decisions that are made particularly with Black Sky may only be made by the Black Sky team, but we actually poll users to
Mm,
make decisions, right? We have a platform where you can submit suggestions, questions, comments, and people can vote on them anonymously. Like they don't know who posted, we don't know who voted, but we actually have like data, right? Where we have questions where people can vote on different things. And that is how I would define like safe and self-governable like internet spaces, is being able to, as a community, decide what are the rules of engagement, how do we protect ourselves, and how can we continue to evolve and make the space better with all of our input and decisions, right? Not just the decision of one person, not like a top down
yeah,
type of usage or environment.
just holistic, very, very holistic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you actually, you low-key answered and went into my second question, which was about how to build community controlled digital infrastructure. Um, but you said something that made me want to ask a follow-up. How do Black women in particular, but really also non-binary and femme, how do they use the internet? How do they use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to add more to your second question.
Please.
Then
Yeah.
I want to answer the second question. Yes, because I had took a couple of notes because I really wanted to talk about this because this is something that has not been done.
Okay.
So we have a feature called Assembly. It's like a website. I think it's like blacksky.assembly, where like I said, you can submit stuff, and
Yeah.
I particularly use it as a way to ask their opinions on moderation labels.
Okay.
So like originally when we started, it was just anti-black harassment and misogynoir. Those were the only two labels we had.
Okay.
But as I've been moderating and the other moderators have been moderating, we have all agreed amongst ourselves that like we need some more labels because some of these things don't always fall directly under these things.
Yeah.
So we came together, we discussed it, and then I took away the conversation and created labels. And then I submitted it to Assembly, and then it allowed folks to vote on them. And those votes allowed us to create new labels and roll out those new labels. And that was helpful because like it allows like the collective to like tweak and like change the infrastructure of what Black Sky looks like. And then it also helps me like as the community safety and support steward who is also like still doing moderation to know like what to look out for
Hmm.
as far as like reports are coming in, um and what labels would actually make the most sense for folks. Like if someone sees something labeled, I want them to be able to see the label and be like, okay, I can see why my post got labeled for this. I don't
Mm,
want them to see it and be like, well, I didn't do that, because by definition's terms, they didn't do that. They did something else. So that's one way. But how Black women and non-binary femmes and gender expansive folks use the internet, um, Black women in particular, are very much so using the internet as a way to disperse information, right? Um, Build a cultural nuance and competency amongst each other, and also build community.
Mm,
And the last thing is hold people accountable.
mm,
So Black women have been using the internet, particularly social media, as a way to almost like reimagine what the world would look like if Black women had more of a say, right, in their experiences. And
yes.
I think that the way that we use the internet makes it very clear. I think about like the blogging era with the natural hair blogs, right? Like how like
Mhm,
we pioneered that. I
mhm.
think about Zola really like mobilizing the use of a hashtag, well, not a hashtag, of threading, right? Of her story, right? And even just storytelling online in general, right?
Mhm.
I think about hashtags like um, Solidarity is for White Women, created by Mickey Kendall, or You Okay Sis, created by Feminista Jones, and like Say Her Name, and these different hashtags that were used as a vehicle to talk about issues that Black women were experiencing online and offline, right? So Black women
Mhm.
are using the internet as a way to really like reimagine what community and accountability looks like, and also as a site of joy, right? When we
Mm.
think about get ready videos, makeup videos, dance trends, cooking videos, like Black women are truly like monopolizing the internet in a way that I honestly believe no other group could do.
I agree. Honestly, it made me even think about. I was recently listening to a Big Frida interview, and it made me even think about twerking. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like even that, like do you know how many like white kids are out here twerking? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Someone was
Where am
talking
I getting
about
that
the,
from? I mean, like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like even like yeah, yeah. It's very the aesthetic, everything, right? Like, just
yeah.
so yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like when you bring up twerking, it makes me think about like the twerk team. Like
Mm.
that's I'm aging myself clearly, but like at the top of the height of us using YouTube back in the early 2000s, the twerk team were a group of girls who were literally just twerking on camera, and they really became like really big in Black culture, to where like people were watching their videos to learn how to twerk. They
Yeah,
weren't trying to teach you how to twerk, right? They weren't
right,
like tutorials, but they were
right.
just showing us the things that you could do with your body that we had never seen before, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
like they
mm-hmm.
really like created like this pathway for people to use the internet to show things that we do, and we do well, even things that may not be seen as like respectable, or like things that may not be seen as like scholarly
Right,
or
right,
professional, right?
right.
It's still creating um and reimagining what it looks like to show your talent online,
Yes, and it's
right?
being mimicked and it's being, like it's entering the culture. It's not like it's going away. It's not like it's something, and it's constant. It's a constant stream of, but you're right. You're right. How my next question is we're going to go to language because I really really do want to talk about language. Um
Okay.
how, I guess, what can we learn from Black women's organizing strategies for tech governance?
Yeah, so I think one main thing we can learn about is like intersectionalism, particularly like intersectionality, and how like Black women, particularly those who are in the tech space, who are creating tech, creating moderation tools, creating spaces for folks to exist, how they are really kind of tap into all people who are experiencing it. So like I've talked a lot about like creating a trans misogynoir label, right?
Mm.
And how like yes, we have misogynoir, but like I want people to know that like what you particularly are posting and that's being reported is trans misogynoir. You posting a picture of Michelle Obama saying that she's a man is trans misogynoir, and this is why it's not okay,
Yeah,
right? I think
yeah.
also another thing is that like allowing like allowing these spaces and like these technologies to evolve as Black women's thinking around like feminism evolves and womanism evolves, right? Because like feminism is ever changing, especially Black feminism and womanism. And we have hip hop feminism, trap feminism. Like we have all these different types of feminism that are, particular to the Black women's and femmes experience. And I think that that also plays a role in like how we create specific tools to make social media and digital spaces a more like enjoyable place. And
Yeah.
the last thing is that like and we talked about this earlier, like the low wages for moderators, like realizing that like moderation is a form of care work, which means that it's also is inherently valuable, right? And if we see it as inherently valuable and as care work, then that could lead to livable wages, right? A work-life balance for folks, right? The dismantling and dissolving of this sweatshop type of experience that a lot of moderators have. So hopefully that answered the question.
No, it does. And that's a very good point, because you're linking that to how care work is often low wage and not valued, even though it is very, very much needed. And I'm so glad that you touched on trans misogynoir, because my next question had to do with that. How do trans and non-binary people navigate gendered language online?
Well, I would say it really just depends on
Or I
the
guess how
trans or
can they?
non-binary person.
Yeah,
It
I guess
depends on like
focus to for now, because I definitely want to make sure that we highlight and we speak on that, because I think that that's very, very important.
yeah, I think it really depends on like who you're talking to about
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and how comfortable they are even like showing up as their full authentic selves online.
yeah,
I know that like a lot of trans women, Black trans women in particular, are very big on TikTok. They do a
yeah.
lot of like lives and videos on TikTok. I follow a lot of them. They provide a lot of commentary, and their content is not focused around the fact that they're trans,
Mm-hmm,
right? Their
mm-hmm.
content is focused around their everyday lifestyle,
Yeah,
right? And yes, they do talk about their trans experience. They do talk about, there's one uh Black trans woman that I follow. I think her name is Monroe Elise, and she does a series called like Clockable, where she talks about how like when she's out in public, like how people like approach her about the fact that like I know you're trans, right?
yeah,
And the way she tells stories in a comical way, but it's also providing commentary around like the real life experiences of Black trans women on a day-to-day basis, right?
yeah.
And I think that they are using storytelling, in my opinion, as a way to talk about their experience. And I think that um, the storytelling also correcting people about gendered language is really important. But I will say this, and this is probably going to upset people, but I do feel like a lot of times, particularly in the queer community, the
Mm-hmm,
experiences of Black trans women and non-binary folks are overshadowed by white people in the queer community. I see a lot of white people online really like making themselves the forefront of conversations around gendered language, conversations around what you can and cannot call someone. But like language is very cultural for Black people, right? So I'm non binary,
mm-hmm.
right? But I don't get offended when someone calls me girl,
Yeah,
right? Because to me, that's cultural,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But a white person, that's not cultural for them.
No,
Like calling somebody girl or the B word,
girlfriend.
like that's not,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like that's not, they
Say
may take that as actual offense, like
Yep.
you are actually misgendering me, right?
Yeah.
But a lot, I'm not gonna say all non-binary, all trans folks that are Black feel this way, but a lot of folks use very like cultural jargon and language and terms as gender neutral terms,
Mm,
right? And that
mm,
doesn't necessarily navigate the same in their communities, but
right,
they are the mouthpiece
right,
for what my experience or my trans sisters experiences are because they're white, right?
right, right.
So I don't care if you call me girl, queen, mother, the B word, whatever, like that, because that's the language I use all the time. That does not offend me, right?
Mm,
But I've had people where I've been like, oh, I'm non-binary and my pronouns are they, them. And they are like stumbling over, like, is it okay for me to call you girl? Is it okay for me? And I can automatically tell that they have been into contact likely with a queer person who may not be of the Black experience,
right,
right?
right,
Who
right.
has told them that you can't do these things. And I think that the way that Black trans women, trans mask folk in general, and also non-binary folks and gender fluid folks, like we approach gendered language in a very like nuanced way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not really sure if it's because of just like our own like outlook on language, or if it's just because like we're Black. I don't know. I
Mm,
don't know.
mm,
But that is something that I also have noticed a lot, especially like online, where it's just like even like the outrage on things, like people will get outraged on something and like the Black queer person will be like, yeah, I never said I was offended, like
right.
you don't have to speak for me about this
Yeah,
situation.
because there's no intersectionality, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not like you're not being culturally aware or sensitive
Mm-hmm.
or no, no. It's I live usually in rural spaces when I'm in the US and very white. And
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Vermont for a long time and we dealt with a lot of that. Just and it's just like, no, your experience there's other it's more layered, it's more
Yeah.
complex, more nuanced.
Yeah.
It, it's and your progress for your community does not translate like the same.
Yeah. No.
It's
Yeah. And like I said, like every single, and that's another thing, like every single Black queer person is different. So
yes,
like
yes. Every black
you
person is
can't
we're not enough. Yes, yes, yes.
we're not a model. Like you can't attribute what one, non-binary Black person or gender fluid Black person likes or doesn't like or finds offensive or doesn't find offensive to the next person. You don't know that, right? You
Right.
don't know what they find offensive. So I just think that it's very interesting um to see like this very like it's like a maybe it's like a cross between like a white savior complex and like the superhero activism. I don't know, but it's just very strange to me sometimes, like just this like desire to like
Be offended on someone else's behalf.
be offended on someone else's behalf. Like,
And then
yeah,
like and
no.
take that and politicize that and
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just like it's like you're still dehumanizing me, like you still don't get
Yeah.
me. And I always think that when
Yep.
those happen, at least in my experience, I just ask, well, do you know any black trans people? Do you know any black
Hmm.
queer people? Do you know, like because
Exactly.
if you did, presumably you wouldn't be talking to them like that because
Yep.
they wouldn't allow it, or even if they probably just wouldn't engage with it, right? Like it's like I hear some
Yeah.
of those language and I'm like, oh, I know that person does not engage with
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah. Like
can tell.
my best friends, they have like a horror podcast that's pretty big and they're like in the horror space and they're Black. And one of our other homegirls who's also like big and they're also Black and they're well known in the horror space wrote an article about how like the term spook and spooky is inherently racist and like the history of the term. And like white people were literally arguing with them, and like a white person even said to one of my best friends, like, I don't think the Black consensus agrees with that. And like when her and I were talking, she was like, are there any Black people in the room? Like, what are you talking, the Black consensus? How would you know? How would you
Right.
know?
And how do you feel so comfortable saying that? Like
Yeah.
speaking for Black people, how do you feel so comfortable? Like, if that doesn't tell you where we are systemically, I don't know
No.
what does. So, how does language police? Well, actually, we already kind of went into that. What role does code switching play in digital survival strategies, you think?
I literally had a very interesting conversation on code switching maybe like a month or two ago
Mm,
with someone, and the conversation went really well. But there were a couple people who were offended. I don't care because I know I like by all means,
I'm
like
like, in,
you didn't read anything I said, but
right.
like I personally do not believe in code switching. I don't code switch, but I also
Mm,
know
mm.
that is a choice that
Yes.
also can put me in danger. Right? I'm aware of that. But as it pertains to code switching online in particular, like the way you talk on the internet, I
Mm-hmm.
think that is really important for people to realize that, like, what are you trying to survive from on social media? What do you
Mm,
think code switching on social media is protecting you from?
mm.
Right? So I think a lot about like the way people use LinkedIn. I like hate it. Like the way people use LinkedIn, and like I see their LinkedIn posts sometimes, and like some people I know, and I'm like reading their posts and I'm just like, who is this for? Like why are you posturing yourself in this particular way? And is this really an act of survival,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or are you doing it because we have been conditioned to believe that we have to?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that code switching, a lot of times people believe will help them move further in life, become more successful. But like more times than not, we've seen that not work. So
Yes. And
like
still
if
harm.
code switching,
And still
yes,
harm.
right. It has. I shared articles on Blue Sky. It's still there are mental health and psychological implications of how code switching impacts the mind of Black people over time. And also, code switching is not 100 proof. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing anything that doesn't have 100% success rating. If it involves me possibly putting myself into mental distress. Can you imagine?
Yes.
I've been code switching my entire life, and it literally has not
That right. Like
rendered
right.
whatever I thought
The
it was
the
going to render.
the the cost benefit analysis is not
Yeah,
no
like what is the return on investment here? Like, let's be
really.
serious. Like, and then also I remind people all the time, like, you're not getting a job because you didn't code switch, right? You're not getting a job likely because you're Black. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like the code switching, like I know people think that if I sound proper, then they'll see me as like a more like acceptable Black. And I'm like, respectability politics don't work. Like they don't
It doesn't work for
work.
Black.
And I know there was a time period in our life where we believed that it would keep us safe and it would work, but it didn't work. People literally die
Yeah. Yeah.
on the hill of
Yeah.
respectability politics.
Right.
Like people, like respectability politics has really infiltrated the what code switching, is. And the person that created code switching, one wasn't even Black, and they weren't. I studied linguistics in undergrad, so like we talked about code switching a lot. Like my focus was African American vernacular English, and the code switching debate in Hampton Roads. So that's what my focus was. Like code switching, when the person created it,
Yeah.
right? I don't know their full intentions, but based on what I learned, what I read is that they were talking about really kind of being able to switch between languages,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they fully understood because they weren't Black. They didn't fully understand the the underlying like racism, right? And classism that comes with the acceptance of different dialects and languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that code switching, the reality of code switching is that people code switch because they have been told that the way that they speak is either inappropriate or people won't understand them. And a lot of times people assume that code switching means not using slang. No, that's
Mm-hmm.
not what that means. Like you can use slang in any code, like any like language model, right? Like
Yeah.
there are certain things and terms that I know not to say to certain people because I know they don't know what I'm talking about. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they may not be white. It could be my grandma. Like my grandma is not going to know like certain terms that we use now. She's not going to like there are certain things that she's not going to understand, and I know that. But when I'm talking to her, I'm not code switching. I'm just speaking to her in a way that she would understand. But that doesn't mean I am um altering or like
Contorting yourself. Yeah.
yeah, like contorting myself or like changing fundamentally who I am and how I speak and how I feel about my language in order to make her comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that like anyone who listens to this is going to be like, they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to code switching. And that's fine. Like, I'm okay with it. I understand that we have been taught, especially as Black people, that we have to code switch to survive. We have to lean into respectability politics to survive. But I'm here to, let you know that like they will still kill you. They will still fire you. They will
And
still not hire you. They will still deny you access regardless. I'm sorry to break it to you.
what
You
did
will not have more access.
no, it will not protect you. Code switching will not protect you.
No.
What did Zora Neale Hurston say? If you're silent about your pain, that they will kill you and say that you enjoyed it. I mean,
Yep.
it's true. It's true. I'm so glad actually that you, and I agree with you. So I mean, it's not, this is, you're not talking to you're not talking to someone denying this. We're both on the same side here. No, it's true. It's so true. And I'm so glad that what you're pointing to is the question behind why code switching exists, period. Because
Yeah.
it exists out of necessity to make some group comfortable. Like, it's not
Yeah.
something that people are going out of their way to try to, like, it's out of survival, legitimately out of
Yeah.
survival. And it's like and you're right, because it's not like there's a distinction between you're going to court or you're going to a doctor's appointment, a very important doctor's appointment, and like you have to position yourself a certain way, right? That's different, right? Than like I have to orient. And I love the example that you used of like, you're right, like I don't talk to my mama the same way that I talk to my friends or my mentor, or like that's not, or someone I'm dating. Like that's not how it works, right? So it's like you're
Yeah.
right.
And
The
I'm also
linguistic
not
component is
also
important.
not code switching. I'm not code
Right,
switching either. Like
right,
I'm reading
right,
the room. Like
right.
it's code switch to me, code switching is if someone calls my phone right now and I don't know who it is, I try to make myself sound like a white
You
woman.
change your
I'm
voice.
not doing that.
Yes,
I'm
it's an
not doing that. Like I am no longer like I made a decision when I took my last linguistics class. I think it was my senior year. This was like 2009. I said I'm not doing that no more because it to me it just doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. Like why do I have to sound? And you can't. Another thing is that you can't talk in standard English. It is a written format. Like you cannot speak like standard English. Like everyone has a specific dialect based on the region that they come from. Like
yes,
everyone, white
yeah.
people, black people, all people. There's Chicano English, there's Appalachian English, people who live in the Appalachian Mountains. Like these things exist. African American vernacular English isn't the only dialect that exists. So for you to think that like you have to, I don't know, like contort yourself, like you said, or make your voice sound different to make people comfortable, like I hate to break it to you, baby, but they still not comfortable. You
Mm-mm.
when you walk in the room, when you walk in the room, you are still black. You're still black. You're still black. You're still black. Like they are not more comfortable because you are trying to sound like a suburban white soccer mom. I promise you.
You
When you leave the room, if they don't like black people, they're going to talk about you when you walk out that room.
they're not right. They're not going to start suddenly liking black people because you said.
Yeah, that's not.
I always think of Ben Carson saying ghetto instead of ghetto, where
Yeah,
you, it's like you're not. Oh, I, yeah, like I grew up.
like it's
Ghetto.
and
It's
to
like,
me, like honestly,
It's not. Yeah.
It's and like I extend a lot of grace to my people because like, you know, we got a lot going on. We have
Yeah.
a lot going on and we are literally just trying to make it day by
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But if somebody was to ask me about code switching, I'm not holding no cut cards. I'm gonna be
Right.
honest.
As you
And
should.
some people, like I said, some people might be mad at me, and that's okay. Still love you. But also I'm not going to like pretend as if I don't think code switching is a waste of
Not,
time because I
right.
do.
Or not harmful to you. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all goes back to we're not a monolith, right? If you
Yeah.
feel the need to code switch, if it is something that has you feel is helpful to you, then by all means, that's between you and that's you and your experience, right? But
Mm-hmm.
to necessitate it, to say that this has to happen, and we don't have to get into this, but I kind of see it almost with the imposter syndrome conversation as well. At least for me, it's kind of like a little bit like related, like I know people who are like, no, I don't experience imposter syndrome. I know, like I know people who say they're like, it's not like I know what I've got and I know who I am and I know why I'm here and like, and then there's some people who
Yeah.
are like,
I
yeah,
don't believe I used to like do like workshops and talks to other college students like years ago about imposter syndrome and
hmm
how to like navigate it. But
yeah,
as I continue to go through like my PhD program and stuff, and once I
yeah,
graduated, I was like, yeah, I don't believe in imposter syndrome because there is no way, like, there's no way like that they would let me into this space off
mm,
of sheer luck.
mm,
Why? They don't like black people. Why would they let you in here off of sheer luck if they don't have to?
right. If systemically and institutionally, you and people who look like you have been pushed out and or not even configured
Yeah,
in
like why would
by
they? Like
design,
clearly like
by
they
design.
may not admit it, but I know I'm exactly who I say I am.
Right, right, right.
And that's just it. And I think that, it takes and I tell my students this a lot like I didn't just wake up one day and like this was my decision. It takes a lot of like therapy, unhealing, a lot of like relearning and like re-educating yourself through different means of education, right? Not just formal education, like talking to people, being observant, reflecting on like things that you've experienced in your life for you to get to a point where like certain things literally just don't make sense.
They don't. They don't.
Just
And it's
don't make sense.
important to question it. I just want to close this part by reading some of your words in your on your about me, which I think speak to this, which I really love. You said, "My blackness is important to my foundational framework. My power comes from my pain, and my pain has been transmuted into moments of joy and understanding." And that's
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what I hear, is that even as I hear you speak, and your passion and your brilliance both comes out, right? But like that, you don't only just live and breathe this, but you're in conversation with this all the time, and you're also an educator that has been poured into by other educators, and you come from a lineage, so this isn't just like talking your shit, you know what I mean, like that this is much deeper, so I appreciate that. So we'll close with some practical. Actually, no, I had one last question. What's the relationship between linguistic authenticity and digital safety? And I asked the linguistic part because you have the linguistic background. So, um,
Anything. So I think that like linguistic authenticity and just authenticity in general is something that is ever changing,
yeah,
right? And I think that when it comes to like digital safety in particular, it is important to understand that like words can change how they impact people over time. They
mm,
can change how they impact people by how they're being used, who's using them, in what context. And I think that that is a very layered experience, and that we can't just necessarily overlook a term because someone may say, oh, I reclaimed this particular term, right? We have to look at the context. A prime example, right? If you use any form of the N word, it like automatically flags it for our moderation. But we go in and we actually look at the post and we decide whether or not this person is actually being offensive, like racist or internalized anti-blackness, or if they're using it in a colloquial way in a conversation. Like if the context, you know, aligns with the usage of the word, right? To me,
Yeah.
that's an example of like having linguistic authenticity in digital safety, because yes, we are going to flag every version that you could think of the word. But what I've learned is there are a lot of people in Germany whose last names are Nig, right?
Mm,
Or
mm,
Nager, right?
mm,
There's an ice cream in Germany called like a Nager or something like that. But
mhm.
the filter automatically catches that. If we did not have human moderators, right, to actually look at it for context, it may get flagged, right? So I
Right.
think that like linguistic authenticity, it really comes down to the fact that like you have to look at the context in which it's being used, right? So like I said, like there's no like level to misogynoir, but some things are and some things aren't. Calling Kamala Harris stupid is not misogynoir. That's
Mm,
not misogynoir. Like
right. Right.
calling her stupid is not misogynoir. Saying something that insinuates that she is stupid because she is a black woman
Right. Or
is
calling her
misogynoir.
stupid, or calling her a stupid black bee. That would be
Yes,
like,
is misogynoir,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
it's all about context.
right.
And like I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, especially just in general, when like not even just like as it pertains to like the moderation that I do, but just like in general when I see people like on TikTok, like their pages being flagged or taken down for certain things, like a lot of times it's BS, but then sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, oh, I see why they took this down, because of the context. Like you
Mm,
talked about it earlier, intent over impact. Like, what are you really trying to say? Like, what are you insinuating? Like, what is this subtle thing that you're trying to say? And
right.
how do we have to unpack that in order to be able to decide if this is safe for this digital space?
Mm, mm. Thank you for that. I have a couple more questions. How can communities develop collective digital security and literacy practices?
Hmm. I think the first thing is that a lot of people need to be open to the talking to and listening to the experiences of those that are experiencing the most harm
Mm,
in digital spaces, and like not just like, oh yeah, they told me they experienced this, but like actually like being an active listener to allow that to um kind of dictate your next move, dictate how you are creating things, how you're navigating things, how you're interacting and engaging with things. I think that's the first step. I also think that people have to be open to admitting that they don't know something,
mm,
right? and and then doing the due diligence to find out what that is that they don't know, and
yep.
not depend on, let's say, a black woman to explain it to you
Yeah.
as labor, right? Like Google is free, right? There, the library, we need to start going back to the library anyway. Go to that library and pick up a book. Ask the librarian to help you do research, right? I saw a really cool TikTok of this girl. She was talking about how like she she's neurodivergent, but she like does like research papers on topics she's interested in so she can learn
Mm,
about it. So if
mm,
she's like interested in like how shoes are made, like how heels are made, she will literally like do research on that, and then she will write like a short research paper so she has a
mm,
better understanding of what that is. And I feel like that is a really good practice, especially for people who are engaging in the internet, people in these tech spaces, because marginalized people are not required to explain to you why something is harmful, right?
Yeah.
It's nice if they do, right? That's kind of them, but that's not their job, right? You have the ability to find this information out. There are so many articles, books, podcasts, art exhibits, talks. Like there are so many lectures. There are so many. We have access to
People.
so
Yeah.
much now.
Yeah.
There's literally no
Absolutely. Absolutely.
excuse.
You have as much
There's no
access
excuse.
to the supportive resources as you do the chaos. So there's really
Yep.
no. Yeah. Yeah. No, getting educated and that literacy is so important, and also to just not assume that, that the strategies of 5 years ago or 10 years ago is going to work, or perhaps you ignored it, your organization or your community, or maybe you ignored digital security for a long time. You can't afford to do that right now. That's not yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. um One last question that I wanted to ask you, because I feel this from you, and I'm like this myself. Of like, community is like really really important to me, and I guess I wanted to know, what does mutual aid look like in digital context? It's
Yeah.
something that I've been
So, and
interested in. Yeah.
this ties into a few things that I'm involved in. So like Hood Rat Scholarship is not only like a business that I created, but I consider it like a educational resource think tank
Yeah.
where like I provide community education resources to people for free, right? So I know that I'm in these academic spaces as an adjunct, and I have access to a lot of information that the everyday person doesn't have access to.
Yeah.
So, my job, in my opinion, for like my principles and my foundation is to, I call it scamming the system or stealing. Is taking this information that is like not accessible and then redistributing it as a form of educational mutual aid to my community for free, right?
Mm.
So if I know the information and I think other people should know it too, I'm gonna share it. If somebody's looking for something and I know I got access to it, yeah, I'm gonna make sure you have access to it too. You just need to like contact me, let me know. So for me, I look at it as like an ecosystem of knowledge. So that's like one form of mutual aid that I look at, like educational mutual aid, which to me is community education, which is providing resources. Like I don't really foresee myself wanting to be like a tenure track professor and all these things like that. Like I'm not interested in that. I'm literally an adjunct because I love to teach. Like I
Yeah.
really enjoy teaching and I need access. I need access to these schools' libraries. I need access to these conferences, these webinars, so I can
Do your
drain
research.
them and
Yep.
then replenish my community with that information.
Yeah.
As it pertains to, and that can be in the digital and the physical, right? So I do online webinars, like on my Hood Rat Scholarship website, I have a resources section where I show people how to like organize like their readings and all different types of things. And I'm working on like taking some of the classes that I teach and like making them into like 4 to 6 week like free online classes so people can also experience like the college class experience, because a lot of people are always like, oh, I wish I could take your hip hop feminism class. And I'm like, well, why can't you? You shouldn't have to be a student to take my class. I don't care. So I'm working on a way to like be able to like share that information with folks. And I'm really hoping that I'm able to launch like my first class um, by the end of the year or the top of the year. And then another way that I look at like mutual aid in the digital space is that like allowing folks to be able to create opportunities to like pool their money together. So particularly like with Black Sky, we are merged with Paper Tree, which is a company that basically allows you to, I don't know if you've ever heard of like I think it's called like Susu, where like you put your money all together for the community and then
Uh-huh.
you all like agree on like who can use different pots of money for what. So like, I need groceries, right? I need this amount of groceries. And then people are like, sure, sure, sure. And you take the money from the pot, right? So that's another form of digital mutual aid. Another thing that I see a lot of people doing is like putting their like Cash App and stuff in their bios, or like people like posting like their GoFundMe's, or I need to pay this bill, and like people reposting it. There are people who have dedicated their pages to literally just reposting mutual aid. There are people on different platforms who do like mutual aid Friday. Here in Richmond, where I live, the person who's in charge of our RVA community fridges, they do mutual aid Monday, where you can tell them like what you need and they will like amplify that for you. And they do that online. The abortion fund that I'm on the board for, and I'm a doula for, like, we do mutual aid online for not only like folks seeking abortions who may need extra support that we can't provide, but also just people in the community. Like, we've helped people raise money to pay their car note, their rent, childcare, whatever it may be, through the internet. So I think that like mutual aid is like a really great way for folks to be able to support other people. I do think that a lot of people are confused about the purpose of mutual aid, and they tend to like be like very like nasty and shady about it, like y'all begging on the internet and stuff like that. But I'm like, this is nothing new. Like, people have been supporting people and pouring into people forever with funding. You just have never seen it done in this capacity on the internet. And to be honest, you shouldn't think that this is a bad thing because people are doing it. You should think it's a bad thing because people have to do it, because they don't have access to the things they need. Right? I should not have to see people posting mutual aid requests on LinkedIn because they haven't had a job in 5+ years. That breaks my heart. That really like confuses me, because I'm like, what is going on? Right?
What is going on?
But that's how I think mutual aid shows up.
And let's just name it, since we're on your work and we're on the theme. But what was it? Over 300,000 Black women lost over 300,000 jobs in the past year. Was it? Yeah.
From February until now. Yeah. And I lost my job at the top of January.
Listen,
so like I have not had a full-time job all year.
Yeah, no, I've similarly.
So it's real out here. Like, people.
It's very real. It's very real. Especially
people are really like in need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people are really in need out here.
They are. They are. That's why I thought it was really important to go into that, because our whole discussion today went to so many places, and I'm grateful for. But I also think that, we are seeing community show up as well. And we have we can use social media as a resource as well. I mean, but you're right though. It is really, really heartbreaking. Like, ask why do they have to? Why is this person who, has all these degrees and has had all these jobs and has, now they can't support themselves or their family? Like, that's not, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to add before we close?
I would just say that, like, if I said something on here that was like factually incorrect, don't be afraid to be like, hey, that wasn't right. Like, I'm always open to correction, critique that is rooted in facts.
Yes.
And then also, like, just take care of yourself, like, it's the best you can, because it's hard out here.
Yes. Thank you for that. And also, thank you so much for doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for you and Black Sky. I think that now you have me, I'm going to go on some sort of rabbit hole to see if there's other things like Black Sky. I'm sure there's got to be some. If you know of some, please let me know as well. But maybe Black Sky's
other like.
Yeah.
I know there's like other apps, but I think that Black Sky is the first one in a decentralized space. Like, a lot of the other apps are like, I think they're like funded like other big tech companies, but Black Sky is not.
Yeah, yeah. No, I thought of, as you were talking about it, how amazing it would be to have a black sky in every, in every big. It would be amazing, right? Because like when you were talking about the context, I'm like that alone to be able to moderate context, not just words. But not everyone's going to be a linguist
Mhm.
moderator anyway. Well, thank you so so much. I'm so grateful for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me.
you are welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.